And so I am Johnson, and I reside in Cleveland, Ohio area, and I've been working with NASA for 35 years, 33 years coming up in a few days as an official civil servant. I started off actually being a NASA graduate student fellow. So I got my master's and PhD through the NASA fellowship program, and then came on to join the NASA Lewis at that time, but now Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio, as an aerospace research engineer. Over my career, I have been a supervisor of the structural dynamics branch at Glenn, and my current role for the past 5 to 6 years has been the NASA Technical Fellow for Loads and Dynamics. And I'm a part of an organization at NASA called the NASA Engineering and Safety Center. And so that particular center was initiated as a result of the Columbia shuttle accident. You may recall 20 years ago or so when that occurred. And so NASA, as a result of the Columbia Accident Investigation Board, it was deemed that NASA needed to make some organizational changes. You would think that there were technical challenges, which there were, but there were also some organizational things that need to be changed. And so one of them was involving setting up this independent organization that would be able to help address a lot of the various issues and concerns that might arise through some of the difficult missions that we undertake. And as you've already heard, NASA undertakes and has very, very tough missions. But what I will say is with the NASA Engineering Safety Center, we actually are the ones that are called in to handle the very tough problems for NASA. So we're like the Marine Corps for NASA. And so I'm one of 19 technical fellows, and each covers a particular discipline or area. And basically, we have a cadre of team members that support us both from NASA, academia, industry, and other government organizations. And actually, my technical discipline team is probably the largest team of all the 19. I have over 60 people that support me to accomplish that mission. And so we provide a lot of the oversight and stewardship for NASA's disciplines when it comes to making sure we have mission success and safety. So I've been a long time NSBE member. So I'm a lifelong and lifetime member. So that means I've been since I was an undergrad, but I'm also actually a paid lifetime member. And I'm glad to have been able to be a part of the Aerospace Special Interest Group over its lifetime. And so I'm glad to be able to have with me today some esteemed colleagues who are going to be able to share from their particular contributions for NASA. And so the first person that I'd like to introduce is Ms. Jennifer Scott Williams. And so she accepted a position within the ISS program as a research portfolio manager, and she managed the Life Sciences Portfolio Ames Research Center, which covered mission integration and operations of several NASA-sponsored research projects. She also managed integration activities that enable launch and return of the payloads to and from ISS. In September of 2020, she was selected as the branch chief of the Applications Client Support Office. And in this role, she manages a team of RPMs responsible for enabling technology demonstrations, STEM projects, commercial payloads, and external payloads for launch and operation aboard and return from the ISS. And so her clients, the clients her team serve include NASA organizations such as SMD, which is a Science Mission Directorate, STMD, which is the Space Technology Mission Directorate, Aerospace Advanced Exploration Systems, as well as the ISS National Laboratory. And recently, this May, she began a one-year detail as the technical assistant to the center director at JSC. In this role, she aids the center leadership with the focus on integration activities both at the center and agency level. And in terms of her background, she attended Spelman College and the Georgia Institute of Technology, where she received dual bachelor's degrees in mathematics and electrical engineering via the Atlanta University Center Dual Degree Program in 2001. And with that, I'll let Ms. Scott Williams say a few words of introductions. Jennifer, thank you for joining the panel.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. Like you, I am a lifetime member of NSBE. I met my husband in NSBE. We have a NSBE baby, all of the things. We got NSBE. They have no choice. And so I credit NSBE with a lot of my career trajectory as well as my life trajectory. Yeah, I've been at NASA this is my 22nd year. I was hired full on as a civil servant out of college, and I've had quite a journey. And thank you, Dexter, for describing some of my more recent experiences. But I actually came out of school as a space shuttle flight controller. So Diana Trujillo in the last panel as a flight director, I was a flight controller for the space shuttle comm systems. And so long history in flight ops, International Space Station program, and a little short stint in the Office of Education as a merit manager. So very, very happy to be here and very, very happy to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. And so we had initially invited Mr. Daryl Gaines to be on our panel. Unfortunately, he's flying in the air if everything goes to plan. And so with that, it's a pleasure to be able to have joining us today, Dr. Leticia Vega. And so I'm so glad to be able to have her as a part of the panel today online. And I would like to just take a moment to introduce her. Dr. Leticia Vega is the project executive for commercial activities on ISS project in the ISS project office in the commercial LEO, low Earth orbit, development program at NASA. She's responsible for assisting existing and potential customers in navigating NASA processes to implement their commercial efforts, including private astronaut missions in low Earth orbit. Prior to joining ComLEO, she was an associate chief scientist for NASA's Human Research Program, coordinating multilateral programs in research development and utilization of ground and space-based platforms to understand and mitigate the effects of space environmental stressors for current and future exploration missions. She also served as a senior scientist in JSC's engineering directorate, responsible for developing next generation life support systems in support of exploration. Dr. Vega has a bachelor's degree in microbiology from Oklahoma State University, a master's degree in environmental science from the University of Houston, Clear Lake, and a PhD in environmental engineering from Rice University. With that, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Vega. Dr. Vega, you have any opening remarks?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I know Daryl really wanted to be here today to talk to the group, but it's my pleasure to step in and talk to you a little bit about our commercial LEO development program. NSBE is a great organization, has played a real large role in developing the engineers of the future. So I'm looking forward to talking with you guys today. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Vega. So glad to have you here. All right, and our last but not least panelist is Mr. Willie Lyles. And so Willie Lyles is the Director of Safety and Mission Assurance for NASA's JSC. As the director, he manages a staff of over 500 civil servants and contractors and directs the safety and mission assurance activities for all human spaceflight programs and projects assigned to JSC. This includes the ISS, the Commercial Crew Program, Orion, and other programs and projects in support of space exploration. He has over 30 years of experience at JSC in human spaceflight. He started off his career in aerospace at Lockheed Martin as a project engineer for diagnostic equipment used on ISS. In 1984, he began his NASA career in the ISS Vehicle Office, leading test and verification activities. And as such, he was responsible for developing the test program for multiple ISS elements, including the node, truss elements, as well as the multi-element integrated tests. Later on, he became deputy manager for the ISS Avionics and Software Office, and where he managed the communication and command of all computing systems critical to the operations of the ISS systems, including those provided by the 5 international partners. In 2012, he became the division chief of the ISS Safety Office, responsible for the safe integration and operation of the $100 billion ISS. He was responsible for developing and implementing the capability to independently analyze and assess the safety, reliability, maintainability, and quality assurance aspects for all systems and payloads used on the ISS. Mr. Lyles holds a Bachelor's of Science degree from Rice University in Electrical Engineering, from Texas Southern University in Physics. Welcome, Mr. Willie Lyles.
Thanks.
You have some remarks to share?
Just a few things. I mean, I'm a native Houstonian. I grew up here in Houston. As you can see, I went to Rice University and Texas Southern University here. And I wasn't one of those guys early on that just said, hey, I'm going to be in aerospace, right? But I was one of those guys that like to tinker with things and tear things apart and sometimes put them back together, right? Sometimes not. Drove my parents crazy a little bit. But I had teachers along the way that kind of sponsored that in me to say, hey, you should go into engineering. You're good in math and science, and this is something that you should look into. So I started that, and at TSU I did. I joined NSBE, and NSBE was instrumental in bringing people around that gave you different perspectives from their vantage points. And I think that's always good. And when you see people that look like you doing some of the things you want to do in life, I think that inspires you. So that's one of the things that I try to do going forward. I mean, I'm really interested in STEM programs and work really closely with a lot of all the way down from elementary school kids through high school, through the universities here and throughout the country. And anytime I get a chance to speak, as I've been asked to today, I just like to see what kind of questions you have and see just kind of get the thoughts of you guys, because the future is in your hands. And as we listen to what you envision and what you see, we can tell you some of the things we're doing, but also we can continue to learn, continue to grow. And I think that's always critical. So I look forward to sitting here and having some of the questions answered, both by us and by you.
Awesome. So you have met our panelists, and so the way that I would like to have our session go today is that I'm going to allow each of them to be able to take 10 minutes or so to share some specific charts in their areas and perspectives from their viewpoint. Then what we will do, we will actually have an opportunity at the end to be able to do a Q&A type of session. I have a few questions that I have for them, but as well, we will take questions from here in person and online, and hopefully we'll have a very engaging discussion. Is that okay? All right, great. Glad to see everybody engaged today. So, and also I should mention that there is kind of a sequence in which we will be following. You look at kind of the current or past programs that we have been involved with, particularly with ISS, and then you're going to see what is the next stage, which is the ComLeo kind of effort, but then Willie will be able to tie it all together in terms of where we're going into the future. And so that will help us to be able to have the discussion about the future of aerospace. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer and have her begin to share her charts and comments. All right. So I'll just take a moment to bring those charts up. Can I have a confirmation that the charts are being shared? Okay, look like I just confirmed it.
Very good screen there.
All right, so everybody, I'm gonna get your mental juices flowing just a little bit. Have a little game. See how much y'all know about the ISS. So for the first one, we can go to the next chart. I think we're looking at something different from what you have.
You're showing the cover sheet.
Yeah.
All right.
You couldn't scroll.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah. I think you're sharing the other screen. There you go. All right. So, when was the first segment of the ISS launched into space? 87, 98, 01, or 2010? Let's see. All right. Sir in the gray shirt.
98.
Let's see if you're right. Okay. Oh, he's like, I got you. I got you. All right. Very good. 1998. That's correct. That's correct. We've been out in space for a couple of decades. So, all right, we'll go to the next one. Who are the international partners behind the ISS? Who supports the International Space Station? Which of these countries? What's the general sentiment here? Say it with your chest now. All the above. All right, let's see. All right, very good. See, I know a few things. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. How big is the space station? American football field size, as tall as the Empire State Building, Space Needle.
Football field.
Football field? Is that what people were thinking? Are you sure? All right, well, let's go. What we got? Not soccer. American football. That's right. I had to make that very clear.
Very clear.
Had to make that very clear. All right. So we'll move on. Thank you so much for participating in that. You did well. You did well. A++ for everybody. So I am going to talk a little bit about ISS, a cool place for science, because that's what I typically do is I help people launch science and execute science on the ISS. Sure. So the International Space Station, let's get a little bit of multimedia action here. A nice overview of what the ISS was about. So that video describes the ISS as a bridge above, right? A bridge above our political issues, a bridge above our different national issues. But I would venture to say that given this conversation, what they're having today is it's also a bridge too. So you've seen some of these numbers we've talked about a little bit, so we'll just click on past these things in the interest of time. We know how big it is. You've already described that. Just a little bit about the traffic. It is a very high traffic International Space Station microgravity laboratory. We are launching people, cargo all the time, at least a couple times a quarter, right? And so all the different vehicles that we have right now, we've got the SpaceX Dragon, we've got the Crew Dragon, we've got the Russian Soyuz that just launched yesterday morning, beautiful launch out of Baikonur. We've got the Cygnus, we've got the HTV that's in development right now, the next generation of it, Progress. So many vehicles are launching to the ISS. So as I said, we're not only a bridge above, we're a bridge to the next level of space exploration. So moving forward. Just to give you a little bit of insight into who's on board station, we are about to cross over to increment, what we call increment or expedition 70. We just launched Crew 7 a couple weeks ago. We've currently got 10 people on board station. The Expedition 69 crew is what's pictured. Moving to the next chart.
6 is coming back too.
And that's right, 69S is about to come back in a couple days, and a few days, about a week or so. Crew 8, that's going to be our next set of astronauts to launch on SpaceX. And so we're really excited. I'm personally excited about Dr. Epps flying. She has been in the queue for a while. So we push it for her. So I had to put her on the chart, next chart. And then we've got the AX-3 crew. So the AX-3, so Axiom 1, 2, 3, they are private astronaut mission complements. And so we've had the opportunity to, I think we're going to talk about that probably a little bit later, is the opportunity to have private astronauts go up, do different science activities, raise money, all those kinds of things. And then we've got our CFT crew that's waiting in the wings as well. So we're looking to launch them next year. Moving on, living on the space station. So there's some things that people aren't really aware of, the different functions that you have to do on the International Space Station that's different from what we have to do on the ground. Like people don't necessarily think about, how do I shower? How do I wash my hair? How do I use the bathroom? That's always the question, right? And the answer to all of those is very carefully, right? So living on the space station, we've got Frank Rubio, who's been on board for almost over a year now. He just broke the record for the longest amount of time for an American in space. And so living on the space station is something that we are doing, and we're trying to use that as a bridge to the next thing. Okay, we're going to move right on through. working in space, that's my thing. That's what I'm near and dear to. We want the astronauts to do our research because it is a microgravity laboratory. And we're going to move right on to the next one. These are the different research facilities on board that we do our work in, the astronauts do their work in. Each major company or conglomerate space agency has its own facility, and you can see that outlined here. And then why do science and space? So that we can continue to learn and grow and advance and explore. And the benefits for humanity, I'm not going to play this video, but this is on YouTube. Just some of the things that we have gleaned from the past 20 years of microgravity research, the number of things that we've learned, the number of products that we've generated is extraordinary. And then you can actually go and see the benefits for humanity online. So that is an image of the cover of the publication. So just as I wrap up, I wanted to just make sure that we convey that the International Space Station is a world-class microgravity laboratory that was built entirely in low Earth orbit, and we continue to operate it today, but we're looking to the future. We're looking to do the next thing. We're looking to explore even further, going back to the moon, right? Going to Mars. And so it's been a wonderful learning opportunity, and it's been a wonderful educational opportunity for all of us around the world, but it's time to look to the next thing. So that's going to be all I'd like to say today.
Awesome. Thank you
right.
so much, Jennifer.
Welcome.
The International Space Station. Wow. We've had a presence in low Earth orbit for a couple decades
Yes.
now, right?
Yes.
And we're breaking records all the time.
That's right. So if you're legal now, you only know the International Space Station. Someone has been flying in space the entire existence of your time on Earth. So
Junior in college, right?
that's right. I know, right? Man, I feel like I dated myself a little bit. That's all right.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. So at this time, we'll have Dr. Vega share and provide some charts. She'll do that directly. Thank you, Dr. Vega. Unmute.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry about that. I have big shoes to fill. First, following Jennifer, and then second, the ComLeo program following the International Space Station's accomplishments over the last 20 years. And with that, I'm actually going to share a video as well. So give me just a second.
Make sure you share audio too.
Yeah, you might want to make sure in Teams that you click the button that says share audio, because we're not hearing the audio.
You're not getting audio?
We're not hearing audio.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, click the.
So
check
yeah,
box.
you can stop sharing, and then when you hit share, there's will be a little slider that says share audio as well.
Okay. So click share. Okay. So share.
At top, it has to have a little.
Oh, computer sound.
Yes. There we go.
I can be taught. Right.
We're very adaptable here.
Yes, we are. Here we go.
LEO. It stands for Low Earth Orbit. That's a portion of outer space about 250 miles up. And for over 20 years, it's been home to the world's most unique laboratory, the International Space Station. In this weightless environment, the space station has enabled scientific and engineering breakthroughs that just weren't possible on Earth. It's taught us more about our planet, physics and biology, and it's preparing humans to travel farther from home than ever before. And as the space station approaches its end of life, America will maintain leadership in LEO by enabling a new era of commercial spaceflight. Through the Commercial LEO Development Program, NASA is working with industry partners to develop the first generation of commercial space destinations. These will be privately owned and operated space facilities, where NASA will be just one of many customers. This new orbital economy will stimulate commerce and usher in the next generation of aerospace engineering, opening the door for scientific discoveries and private astronauts, allowing NASA to continue its critical research in LEO, supporting deep space exploration and bringing those benefits back home to Earth. Welcome to America's future in low Earth orbit.
to start my slides. All right. I think that video gave a good overview. Hold on.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Chelsea Bayarte.
Oh, that's yeah, that's you.
Sorry. Sorry.
It went to the next in queue.
It went to the next video. Okay, next slide. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Commercial LEO was developed in 2017, or the beginnings of the Commercial LEO Development Program was in 2017, when Congress gave us a mandate, or gave NASA the mandate to transition low Earth orbit, which is right now run by the International Space Station, to private companies where NASA's one of many customers, so that NASA could focus on exploration to the moon and onto Mars. So this just basically tells you kind of the list of, the mandates that Congress gave us. Commercial LEO ecosystem that we're developing right now is comprised of three components: cargo, crew, to go, and then the destination. So we've been doing the commercial cargo and commercial crew for the last several years. The last talk about an hour ago talked a little bit about the price to fly cargo to the station has decreased dramatically with the advent of these commercial transportation providers. And we're looking at those same types of savings in terms of commercial LEO destinations, and broadening that broadening that access to space to a broader community of countries and people. And so I'm going to skip through this assumptions and slide, and just talk about the development strategy. So right now, we are working hand in hand with the International Space Station and looking at design and development of these commercial destinations, working with ISS and testing different types of technologies, taking those lessons that we've gained over the last 20 years and handing that over to private companies so that they can take that knowledge that we have and build their own destinations. And so we, as the video talked about, we actually have 4 different concepts that are right now in development. We have one developed by Axiom Space, and I'll talk a little bit about them in just a second, because they are also, in addition to developing their commercial destinations, they're building out. They're also our one of many private astronaut mission providers. We also have NanoRacks that has a concept, Northrop Grumman, and then Blue Origin with Sierra Space as a partner. So we have these 4 different concepts, and all of them are looking at their critical design review in the 2024 to 2026 timeframe. So, and at that point, NASA will down select to 1 or 2 of those that will go on to development, which we will provide funds to get them to a fully functioning space station. So we have that. Now that talks about the types of destinations. Now, in addition to that, our program also does, and this is my job, operates what's called private astronaut missions. And so we work hand in hand with the International Space Station in implementing and executing these missions, which are comprised of either sovereign countries or individuals that spend roughly 2 weeks in space doing things like outreach, technology development, research, and it's a great way to expand that knowledge base and expand that access to low Earth orbit. Our first mission was last year in 2022 with Axiom 1. So that was the first private astronaut mission to the International ISS. It was made up of 4 individuals. Michael Lopez Alegria as the commander. He's a former astronaut. We had an American entrepreneur. We had a Canadian investor and philanthropist, and we had an investor and an philanthropist from Israel. So it's an international crew that had a wide variety of interest, and which included outreach, research, and development. So very successful. The mission was supposed to last 10 days, but due to weather, it actually expanded to 17 days, and we almost maxed out the longest short duration mission. We almost surpassed all the longest duration mission of a space shuttle mission by just only 12 hours. So we were 12 hours short of that record. With that, we actually had a second mission complete in actually this past May, Axiom 2. It was comprised of a crew led by Peggy Whitson as the commander. It had also, we also had two Saudi astronauts, the first Saudi astronauts to the ISS, which also included the first Arab woman to orbit the Earth. In addition, they also focused on research and development activities, outreach activities. So, and again, it's more additional countries that are interested in space, want to participate in the space economy. And with that successful, we actually have a third mission, which actually will be Mike LA will be coming, and we just released the crew. So Mike LA is the commander. We have an astronaut for Turkey, astronaut from Italy, and then an ESA astronaut from Sweden. So we have this increased interest in using the ISS as a premier research facility and trying to expand that moving forward forward for our commercial destinations. So in addition to those, our program also does something called commercial space capabilities. And that is basically, that was created in 2014 originally to support the development of space capabilities for LEO. And so it's very successful. And when the commercial LEO program was established, that commercial space capabilities was incorporated as a part of our program. So we've been working since 2014, so a decade of these commercial space capabilities has been really, really successful in providing that information and know-how to these small companies that are interested in building these technologies for LEO. And we recently had our second award of that CCSC contract. And so we had a number of different companies that were awarded. And then again, this is to provide expertise to these small companies to build out that LEO economy. And they include Blue Origin. We also had Aerospace. There is the VAST. You guys might have heard of them. They want to develop their own independent low Earth orbit station. And also SpaceX is interested in participating in the low Earth economy. So what we're doing here with the commercial LEO development program is taking all of that knowledge that we gained over the last 20 years, all that expertise, and transferring that and broadening the access to low Earth orbit to companies, to individuals, to different countries to participate in space. And so that gives us that baseline so that we can go explore onto the moon and onto Mars. And yes, and with that, I will hand it over to our next topic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Vega. Appreciate that so much. Next, we will have our next panelist, Mr. Willie Lyles, and he's got a video that I will show initially.
Artemis stands ready. Ready to turn dreams into reality. Ready to return humanity to the moon and take us further than ever before. The culmination of inspiration and innovation, of Herculean efforts and steadfast collaboration, Artemis 1 is ready for departure. And the Artemis generation is about to leave its mark.
What will be a journey of more than 500,000 miles to the moon and back starts right here at Launch Complex 39 Bravo. Although this first flight will not carry a crew, it will test every system in the deep depths of space to prepare the way for future crewed missions.
When the final go is given and the teams at Kennedy Space Center release this rocket, Artemis will roar to life and we will witness the beginning of a tightly choreographed mission.
All engine 1, 2, 1, and liftoff.
The first 2.5 minutes lift Artemis off Earth and build momentum. It's another 6 minutes of pressing uphill, accelerating to orbit. This is followed by a push from the second stage to raise Orion higher.
And once all the systems are cleared to continue, The second stage will fire again and push Orion beyond the bounds of Earth. At this point, we're going to the moon. It'll take several days to reach our destination, but as we sprint across the void, many new procedures and systems will be tested and proven.
240,000 miles later, Orion will enter an oval-shaped orbit around the moon, one that will take Orion to about 60 miles above the lunar surface and then out to 40,000 miles beyond the moon. This is a distance farther than any human-rated spacecraft has ever gone before.
As momentous as reaching the moon will be, returning to Earth is just as significant and challenging. Every observation we make, every lesson we learn on this journey prepares the way for humans to safely venture out and return home. And so on its final lap around the moon, Orion will ignite its main engine, push out of lunar orbit, and begin the long trek home.
This is a spacecraft built for the harsh conditions of deep space, as well as the intensity of returning home. Nearing Earth, Orion separates from the main power and propulsion systems of the European Service Module and prepares for the final sequence of events. Entering Earth's atmosphere at 24,500 miles per hour, the heat shield endures the fury of re-entry. The air around Orion reaches temperatures half as hot as the sun, but also slows Orion considerably. Until finally, parachutes can deploy, allowing Orion to gently dip into the Pacific Ocean.
To the moon and safely home again. This is the journey of Artemis 1, and it will set the precedent for all that follows. United with partners around the world, this is the challenge we choose. To meet hand in hand, step by step, lighting the way from the Earth to the moon, to Mars, and beyond. We are ready.
Thanks, Dexter.
You're welcome. All right, Willie, we're ready.
All right. Yeah, I like showing that video. I had another one too, but because of time, I don't want to go into that one. The other one's about the risk that shows with the crew flying and everything like that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. First, I'm going to ask you guys a question. I'm going to follow Jennifer a little bit. So, do you guys know why these missions are named Artemis? How they came up with the name?
The sister of the Greek god Apollo.
Right. Right. Because the Apollo missions to the moon now, you study it, right? So, no, definitely. That's why it's named Artemis. That's why the mission is so called Artemis. And definitely, if you look at, you talked about space station earlier. We talked about commercial LEO development. We talked about all the work with international partners. We talked about the new partnerships. If you think about it, those are just setting precedent, right, for where we were going later. And if you look at it, I like showing this chart I kind of stole from the Center Director, Vanessa. And it kind of just shows you the breadth of all the missions, right? We start with station. We go all the way through commercial LEO development, talking about commercial crew, the vehicles. And then we stretch all the way through the different phases of Artemis, which will get us to the moon and to Mars eventually. Video is a little dated. We did have the first launch last November. If you guys remember, very successful mission, right? I mean, we were really amazed with how few different issues and concerns that we came out with that mission. With me being in safety, we kind of stretch across each organization. We're a support organization. So we support all the programs, ISS, commercial LEO development, all the phases of exploration in Artemis, looking at Orion, which is housed, down at Johnson Space Center. We work closely with the other centers on SLS, at Marshall, with EGS, at Kennedy. We're all part of Artemis 1. But also looking at HLS and getting the lander system, and then looking at the future suits that we're working, that's here done at Johnson also, and also looking at just how we tie it together, and the whole Moon to Mars effort that's been stood up just kind of looks at these different phases and how we interact and how do we leverage off. And I didn't mention Gateway. My Gateway guys are really getting me if I don't. So Gateway is a really big connecting point, right? To get us through those different stages. So in safety, we work with all of these guys. And one of the things that we do is we help them, all the program management projects, to buy down risk. The first video that I don't show the kids anymore, I show more to college students and young adults, was really showing the rigors of training to fly in the space and showing some of the things that can go wrong. And I like to show that because a lot of people say, hey, we're not going to do anything if it's not safe. Well, do we do anything in life that's completely safe? Not much, right? So really the way we look at it is safety. And I think that we look at it through the programs and everyone that's working it. We're going to fly as safely as we can. And we're going to buy down risk as much as we can. The further we go out into deep space, the more risk we're going to have to accept. And that's just a fact. It's a lot of unknowns there. It's a lot of the challenges that we haven't worked through before. Things that we did back in the Apollo days, some of those things we will do differently today, and we are doing differently today. So you have to continue to learn from lessons that things that were done before you. But I always try to compare it to just your daily life. Think about it. What's one of the things you do in daily life that brings a lot of risk? You drive a car, right? Think about driving a car. Think about the evolution of the car. Think about many years ago. Many of you way too young. I'm an older guy. But I remember we didn't have to wear seatbelts and didn't have seatbelts. They weren't even a part of the car, right? So you think about some of the change that happened, seatbelts, windshield wipers. If you go further back, they didn't have windshields, right? So they had to put a windshield on the car. They didn't have wipers to wipe away the rain on the car. Brake systems. How much has that improved, right? Braking systems are essential for your vehicle. Airbags, right? And now we have all kind of sensors throughout the car, keep you in your lane, right? Slow you down if you approach somebody too closely. So all of these things have evolved over time to do what? Help you have a safer drive, to make it as safely as possible. It's no different for us when we start talking about space, right? I mean, it's a lot of things that involved in with the vehicle itself, and we build it into design. We look at safety reviews. We look at all the design reviews we go through, making sure all the hardware is developed correctly, making sure we put the right quality in place. But along the way, you also have to look at the operational side of it too. And even in the car, I mean, you do a lot of things to make sure you have a safer drive, right? What's one of the biggest things we look at now that cause a lot of accidents? It's in a general sense. There you go. And we can categorize as distracted drivers, right? And one of the biggest distractions is the cell phone. I mean, that's a big one. But again, you can operate hands-free. If you just have to make those calls or talk, there are hand-free capabilities that you can use now to help you in that life. So as we get new technology that helps us in different ways, sometimes we have to do other things to not have these collateral effects, the damages along the way that can't happen. So we got to constantly think about how do we modify things to continue things to make things as safely as possible. And that's a part of our job with safety, along with everyone at the center, actually, and throughout the agency. But again, it's about your training too, right? So you need to make sure you drive and don't use those devices as much as you can. You need to be aware. I mean, being a sleepy drive is almost as bad. So you need to get your rest, be aware when you're driving. And you got to watch the road hazards, different things that are going on, be aware of different things that are happening. But when you do all of those things, even if you do everything that you can do, if you do everything that is possible from the vehicle set's vantage point when you buy your new vehicle, there's still hazards out there. You could have a very rainy day, right? Slick tires, different things happen. Or you have another distracted driver that comes over and gets in your lane or can harm you in some way. So you still got to be aware. And the key thing I want you to get out of that, you will never, never, ever be totally risk-free. It's the same thing with space travel. We work on the vehicles, we train the astronauts, we put different mishap scenarios out there, everything that we can think of to try to train them along the way. But at the end of the day, there's still some hazards and some risks that maybe we don't see yet or that are out there that we just can't buy down all the way. And that's going to be key as we go further and further in exploration. You talked a little bit about one of the tragic, catastrophic accidents at NASA. We've had 3 catastrophic accidents. The first was Apollo 1. Most of you guys probably don't know about that one unless you really read your history and look it up. And we had 3 crew members killed in 1967, right? And this happened on the ground, but they just couldn't escape the vehicle. There was a fire and they couldn't get out. So we had redesign efforts. We made sure the hatches could open and we could have other safety valves to get out. to be able to save the astronauts along the way. The second one, many of you probably know about, and that was Challenger. I wasn't working in NASA yet. I was working with Shell Oil Company. That's where I started working before I got into NASA. And I remember the challenge, and most people remember when that happened. But when that explosion happened right after liftoff, that was due to another hardware failure, right? Simple device, a little O-ring. But if you think about it, we lost 7 crew at that time. And I understand better working at NASA that these people too. You get to know these people and see it's personal. So you try to do everything you can to protect them.
I have to interrupt for a second.
Go ahead.
I was majoring in aerospace engineering until January 28, 1986, when the Challenger exploded. I changed majors out of aerospace engineering.
Did you? Why'd you change out?
I had big dreams, big goals for, I mentioned it this morning for anybody that was in the presentation. Since I was a little kid, I wanted to design and it's like when I grow up, I will start a company and design and build a nuclear thermal propulsion system because NASA had tested it in the 60s, 70s and didn't do it.
Right.
I said, doggone it, I'll do it.
You gonna do, yeah?
And once that happened, I thought I'll never have a chance to do it because I knew the shuttle would stop indefinitely, launches would stop indefinitely, and when they did restart, they were never going to hit that 10 launches per orbiter that had been mentioned, whether anybody.
Just the cadence that they were, yeah.
I was a kid, I believed it.
Yeah.
So, so I thought I'm never gonna be able to do what I want, so I'm getting out of the field.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, and a lot of people got affected personally by that too. And then the third one, right, Columbia. And a lot of people know about Columbia in 2003 upon reentry. The Earth's atmosphere when we lost 7 more crew members that day, right? And that one was one that happened actually on the way up, right? We had the protective tile was damaged due to icing, and it struck the tank, and we didn't really know the damage that occurred, and we also didn't have a good way of inspecting at that time to go back and even to check and make sure there wasn't damage there. But of course, after all of these things, we made hardware design changes, we made process changes, procedure changes along the way that have helped us to be able to save the crew more going forward. And there are many other close calls. I mean, on station, water in the helmet. That's a big one that some people have heard of. And that was a close call. It wasn't a mishap, but it was a close call. And some of the close calls are very big also. We had a second incident like that not long ago. Investigation board was stood up. But throughout the history of the agency, we have had many catastrophic type events, and we've worked hard to try to bow down the risk as much as we can. And that's the thing I want you to take away. I mean, no matter what you do, you're never going to fly risk free, and you're never going to be totally safe. But there are things you can do to help buy down that risk, right? And I think that one of the things that I heard a long time ago is smart people learn from their mistakes, wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And if you study history, especially lessons learned, then you can avoid making some of those mistakes in the past. And so many times we can get caught up in our own thoughts about how things can be done differently. We don't take the time to look at some of those things that maybe were thought of, same ideas may have been thought about years ago, but it didn't happen for a reason. But if you look into it and dig deeper, into your lessons learned, you can find a lot of knowledge and a lot of information there. And I would say emulate the successes. When you see somebody being successful doing something, take that, own that. I mean, go further out with that, right? But take it and own it and emulate that. I would challenge all of you, no matter where you work, whatever you do in life, tap into the knowledge databases. You're going to have them no matter what you do in life. Somebody's going to go along and capture information, put it in a database somewhere, and hopefully keep updating that and take advantage of that. Use it because it'll come in handy. Benchmark industry, no matter what you do. If you see somebody doing something you want to do, or you see where maybe you can get some pieces of it, benchmark them. See how they go about doing what they do. And then I also utilize the subject matter experts because you can pull on people. A lot of people have discussions with you. All you got to do is ask. It used to be back in the older generation, it was tough. I get it at work all the time where people say, hey, I have interns come in, a new hires, they can come up there. I can come right up to the director and talk to them. Yeah, I'm just like you. Why not? I want to hear what you got to say because I'm learning from you too. And back in our day, we couldn't do that. I know I couldn't. We never got past a branch chief, let alone a division chief or director going up. That was just off limits, and it didn't happen. And I'll tell you, I think the atmosphere. I know at Johnson, I think throughout the agency is a lot different now. I think a lot of us that grew up together have kind of embraced that, and we look at how we need to just help the younger employees grow. And I appreciate that. Um, the second thing I'll tell you is utilize all the latest tools and resources available to you, no matter where you work, no matter what you do. I'm particular of aerospace, but no matter what you do, in development operations, we in SMA utilize all of the tools that we can in safety, reliability, quality, engineering, and assurance. So those are our areas, our disciplines that we work primarily in. We try to make sure that quality is built in from the ground. So we don't want to jump in late and tell you what you didn't do, or these things are missing. Now you got to go back and redesign some things and do that. The key thing I think is if you get involved early in the design process from a safety perspective, quality perspective, then you can actually help that design evolve and you can influence it early on. So get involved early and have the communication early to work with everybody involved. We look at failure modes and effects data, integrated hazard, possible causes, controls, verifications through inspection, testing, analysis, and demonstration, throughout every level of the life cycle of development. And I would say just engage. It's still about communicating and looking at every phase of design and tying it into the safety reviews also, and do that. And also on the operations side for the crew, as I talked to you about, they fly and they train, right? But we also work different simulations with them. We work mishap investigations. We look at certain scenarios. What if this happened? What if that happened? A lot of training. From being a flight, working in the FOD for a long time, that we did that. And you work hand in hand with safety, engineering, health performance, and everybody else involved. So we try to do that. And the last thing I'll stress to you is use diversity and inclusion. A lot of people talk about it, but a lot of people don't embrace it. And I know NSBE is all about that for sure. Absolutely. And those of us that have gone through and learned from others, we embrace that. So we try to make sure that we're able to enact a lot of things along the way and influence that as much as we can. Um, every single person's been blessed with different talents and skills. And you want to tap into people that are different from you. That could be in race, ethnicity, color, age, backgrounds. But you want a diverse group of people because they can see some things in a way that you may not see them. And it gives you a different vantage point. And I think that when you collectively get all those thoughts together, you're able to talk through things and you're able to work through things and be able to avoid a lot of things that you don't see if you only gather yourself around people that think like you. So I think that's important that you do that. But when you do that and bring these people in, you can't just say, I brought them in. Here they are. I hired this guy. I hired that guy. So what are you doing to help develop them? Are you giving them the tools that they need? Are you providing that for them? Are you giving them a seat at the table, a voice? Right? Because if I don't give you a seat at the table, what difference does it make if I got this diverse, talented group of people, but I still don't listen to what you have to say? That's critical. And you have to let them speak openly and honestly too. Not that you can't just look at it, hey, if that you disagree with me, I want to shut you down. You can't let that happen. And no one can let that happen on your team. One of the things I always tell people I try to do is when I'm looking at some type of risk in my board or within another board I'm sitting in, especially if I'm leading it, I will kind of set the stage and look at the framework, what we're trying to do, and kind of set the tone of it. But I will not tell people my thoughts on how to resolve it. I want to hear what they have to say first. So I'm going to sit and listen a lot first. And then I will say what my opinions and my thoughts are later, and then we'll have the discussion. I'll also try to look around and see if you're sitting in the room and you're antsy, but you're not saying anything to me, I'm going to invite you to speak. Like, what are you thinking? Because some people just won't speak up because they don't want to show, hey, I don't want to show that I don't know enough to say something about this. No, there are no dumb questions. People say that all the time. But I think that people have to invite you to speak too, because they'll say that, but then they'll shut you down when you ask certain things, which just doesn't go hand in hand. So you got to invite people to speak up. And I think it's important to look for those hidden voices because a lot of people have thoughts. And if you invite them to speak and you see that you get them to participate some, you will find out that just expands throughout your whole team. More people will see that. And I think you get a whole better work environment. I think you get better communications, and that's at every level. It goes against what we talk about. We have this class we have as organizational silence. And that's one of the things you want to avoid. You want to be where people are shut down or don't have a voice or they can't speak. Because when they do, someone that's leading a discussion minimizes their thoughts or ignores them, things like that. So you got to try to make sure you're not one who supports that. So those are the three things I just want you to think about no matter what you do in life, and especially in aerospace. Utilize your lessons learned, use all the tools available to you, and promote a diverse and inclusive culture within your team. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Willie. A lot of really good stuff there. And I know that a lot of times we forget because as we have been on this career path and that has brought us into the aerospace community, we're always thinking the mission, we're thinking hardware, but we really forget that people are the most important part of the mission. And a lot of the things that you shared has to do with people and as a result, organization. And so that's where a lot of things that have needed to change to enable to us to be able to go to the next level and to be able to have a future that is inclusive and allows us to accomplish our mission. So,
well, safety, right? People just look at safety as you have the policing function, you're shutting us down. No, we had to change that whole mentality. No, it's yes, if, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can do it if you do these things and offer, some type of solutions for them too.
Right. And just on the safety, I was going to say, the whole safety culture of NASA changed. And in particular, I mentioned about the NASA Engineering Safety Center. Also, during that time, NASA changed their what's called tech authority. They implemented technical authority. So they created a safety and mission assurance technical authority. Independent. They created independent engineering tech authority. They had the human health and human health performance. So they're just created these chains of communication that goes from the very lowest level of contributor all the way to the administrator. And so anybody can be able to voice and share their perspective. Those were some of the things that caused us to actually have some of the accidents that we did, not just the technical reasons.
Right.
And so I just thought
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And like you said, it's that independent leg, right? Because we'll have, like within our team, we have safety personnel that are employed we disperse them to all the programs and they support them. But then we have the independent technical authority, the chief safety officers that they don't get paid out of the same budget with the program managers. It's out of a totally different budget from headquarters, and they have an independent path to work up through OSMA at, say, Officer of Safety Mission Assurance at headquarters, up through our chain all the way up when they have any kind of maybe, whether it's a formal dissent or not, right? But definitely if you have a formal dissent, it works up through those paths. And that's, as you mentioned, it's all three tech authorities.
And so just to close out Willie's section, we have one other video that we would like to share that really
that's one I mentioned. Yeah, that's one I don't show little kids anymore. When I go to elementary schools. I can show high school because I did show it once and little kid I said, I don't know if I want to do that. Can't do that no more. That's right, it's scary.
Oops, I forgot to share the audio.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm so quick to. Oh, it's already there. Okay, cool.
Travel is hard and unforgiving. It's always been and always will be.
It's going to be hard. There's a new chance of death. Going in a little can through deep space, it's a very harsh environment.
We think you can come back, but nothing is certain.
There are all sorts of challenges we will face on deep space missions. Communication delays, radiation protection, isolation of the crew.
So it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are.
There's never going to be zero risk. When you're breaking the bonds of gravity, that's just part of the deal.
And it is one of the great adventures of all time.
Okay, all flight controllers, go for landing. Retro, go. Fido, go. Guidance, go.
That challenge is one that we're willing to accept.
Surgeon, go. Fido, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Fido, go. Guidance, go. Fido, 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 go
man in his quest for knowledge cannot be deterred.
Space is not just a destination. It changes you forever.
It'll be tough, really tough, but we have the right people for the job.
We have pressed the qualities for success into system after system.
This country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested.
Pushed our people past every failure we can dream up.
We have never been more ready to meet the unknown.
Through Artemis, we will once again explore beyond our world.
And we will succeed.
So see, the first part of that video can be a little scary to kids. Right? And it says, you could die. Okay, we're gonna, it's true, but you know, you gotta be a little bit old to understand that risk and how you do that.
You could die tripping down the stairs.
Well, anytime.
Absolutely. So at this point, I would like to open it up for questions, especially with the interest of time, because we want you to give you an opportunity to engage with our panelists. Certainly, you've seen the sort of the progression and evolution from the International Space Station to now what's coming next with the commercial low Earth orbit development program, and then on to Moon to Mars. As a matter of fact, NASA has recently kind of reorganized to be able to now have an organization that's called Moon to Mars, for which everything now is enveloped in umbrella in terms of our going into the next generation of space exploration. So with that, I'll open it up either in the room or online. I see one in the room. If you could state your name and your question.
So my question is, as we ramp up human activity in space and bring in a lot of partners, we've been talking all day about all the people that are getting involved, all the different companies, and it's just going to continue to increase as years go on. We get into the conversations of, normalizing space. Like Will, one of our earlier panelists, said that, he doesn't even watch SpaceX launches anymore. So it gets to the point where it is becoming normalized, and it's going to continue to become normalized as we continue to ramp up our activities on a day-to-day basis. But you get into the conversation of, as the partners come in, are the safety standards, standardized across the board, consistent? Are they looking at like redundant consequence in the same way? Are they, considering risk in the same way? And a lot of companies might not be sharing the same information, there's, proprietary information, things like that. So who is on those risk panels? Who is making those judgments? And then as people start to collaborate, as companies start to collaborate, if NASA becomes not the owner, but a user, are like, what is NASA's role? How involved are they in those risk conversations? So I just wanted to hear like all three panelists' thoughts on all of that. Flight control. Are the controllers being trained in the same way? Like, is safety being involved in those mishap scenarios in mission control on all of those different launch providers that are being
I can start first. This is centered on safety, right? And I think it is centered on safety. And I will tell you, we are involved with all of those companies we're talking about at different levels. And before anyone flies to a space station or commercial LEO, we're working really hard with commercial LEO development guys as they're looking at those 4 companies they talked to you about. And we're working with them. We're looking at how we can partner with them. We're looking at some of those companies even want to set up their own safety review panels over time, right? But they don't want to do it right away, and they know that. So they leverage off what we do now, and we want to transition some of their work to them so they can take ownership. But we'll still be involved in some type of area of surveillance or, as you see where they prove out more that they understand the different principles, especially if our crew's involved. If our crew's involved, we're going to always be involved in it. That's just clear, right? Now, if it gets to be where they're flying and our crew's not involved at all, and we're not utilizing their platform in some way, which is not the plan at all right now, then we become less involved. But I think they still want us to be able to offer that guidance. NASA's kind of the old Yoda in a sense. You want to look at it right now, and you know, you see more people because people ask me also, if people are we worried because more people are going to want to work for SpaceX or Blue Origin, right, or some of the other companies. To me, I don't look at it that way. I think it's just an expansion because we can do a lot more together. You know, we NASA could not do a lot of the things we're doing today, even the commercial Leo development or especially the Artemis launches. We would never get funded enough to do those things.
Exactly.
I mean, just honestly. And we couldn't do that alone. So with this plan years ago about how we were going to kind of move toward getting out of low Earth orbit and looking at sunsetting station and now 2030 is the plan. But that and depends on that shifting over to commercial Leo development. But along with that, we're working hand in hand with the partners of these different companies, the Axims, the Blues, and all these guys, and looking at how we look at from our knothole, looking at safety, looking at quality assurance. We've changed quality a lot, right? So we're not embedded in a lot of the things they do quality wise, but we have set up surveillance programs and audits. So we make sure that they understand the principles when they write up a plan. We review that with them, and then we monitor, make sure they're working toward the plan that we agreed to with them. Even our hands might not be in line as much, right? I mean, it's not as much oversight. There's more inline work with them. I don't know if that's kind of answer, I think, from my perspective.
Go ahead, Letty, because I think you're probably going to be able to piggyback off of that a little bit better from a Leo perspective.
Right. And I think to piggyback off that, each of these companies really do want to build, everybody's safety is number one. Safety is paramount of the crew, whether that is our NASA crews, international partner crews, or private crews that will come to these commercial destinations. So safety is paramount. And one of the challenges that all of us have over the next several years is building that workforce, building that breadth of knowledge and expertise. So these companies are leveraging that safety expertise from NASA to build their own safety personnel, safety and safety culture with these different companies. And one of the challenges, each of these different concepts, each of these different stations have different types of technical concepts. So it really is a challenge for all the safety crews to look at these different technical concepts, designs, and say, does this meet the intent of what our requirements stand for? And so one of the biggest things we're working with our safety teams is developing those requirements that meet the intent of that our safety requirements, but at the same time, grow that technology and look at different ideas and different types of design and have a safe station for all. So it's a really challenging time, and we are all working towards having these safe stations, but trying to build up that interest, the personnel with that safety expertise and leveraging that knowledge so that we have these commercial Leo destinations that are safe and sustainable moving towards the future. And that's a great question. Whoever brought that up.
Yeah, and then just one thing that Letty said too, she talked about the requirements and how those, because that's fresh on our minds because we just work together. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
She brought that one up, but we're looking at it. We give them certain guidelines and certain requirements they have to meet, but then it's also some maneuverability in there. Because if they come back and say, "Hey, I can meet this with a different standard," I don't have to follow the NASA standard, but it still meets the intent. So that's why I think we've grown a lot and look at how we look at different companies, and they may have their own way of doing things, but if it meets the intent of what we need, it's still good. As far as building up that personnel, well, they've been stealing some of our guys, which is okay with me. But being from both my civil servant and contractor workforce, but to me, that's okay. It's almost like more discipleship out there with safety because now you have a relationship with some of those guys. So when they go out, they know to come back, and you can build on that, just like we said. But it's always about the people.
Yeah.
So now that you have that trust and that work relationship with them, now you can still help them grow too.
Yeah. And just from a flight control perspective, yes. Yeah. So it's interesting because I was a part of a little experiment where for the Boeing CST-100, they hired NASA flight controllers as the ops agent for that vehicle. And so we have that model in place,
So
right?
it was almost like reverse. With
Right,
contract
right.
at NASA.
So as a civil servant, I was a contractor for Boeing. And so that was just an interesting way to do business, right? But there's also, SpaceX has their own flight control team for their vehicle. And so similar to what Letty and what Willie are saying is that we help empower them, right? We help them develop those skills. We help them with some of the legacy knowledge that we've had and some of the experiences that we've had. We share that information so that they can build up their own method of operations, right? But if we got our crew going on their spacecraft, we're all up and in the business, right? And so it's really just a more collaborative environment.
So most of those flights have a certification of flight readiness.
Correct.
The reviews that we have. So those are going to be done differently based on what that partnership is, right? How much skin is in the game on either side. So you'll see things shift, but it will, in my mind, it will never be 100% one and not the other with these partnerships. It's going to be where that scale tilts a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for the question, very broad question. I think in the interest of time, we probably should be wrapping up. I didn't know if there were any online questions. Just to be able to give them an opportunity. If not, I think we'll be able to close this out. It's been a wonderful opportunity having Dr. Vega and Jennifer and Willie share their time and their perspectives on the future of aerospace. And thank you very much for agreeing to be on the panel. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.